So the question is, why is no one anywhere in the world telling you the truth and telling you to prepare? I will tell you that I had a network, one of the big three, a network official actually tell me in the last 2 years, Glenn, listen, we all know what's coming. And this is a quote, but we have a responsibility not to tell the American people because they'll freak out. I couldn't believe I was hearing that. Needless to say, the rest of the meeting didn't go well. Our economy is fragile and everyone treats you like you're a moron. All it takes is one incident the size of September 11th. You remember how much damage that did to our economy. One terror attack, one country's banks to go south, one huge natural disaster, civil unrest. It's all combining, and eventually it will be Thelma and Louise, and we go over the edge. Let me give you a timeline of some of the major natural disasters since 2000. These are the big natural disasters since 2000, and some of them have been really impactful. Now the terror attacks. You add the terror attacks on top of them. All of these things, because the world is tied together financially, all of these things mean something. On top of that, you now add the major riots. These are the riots around the world. How about the financial meltdowns? The financial meltdowns add to those. And I can't, I'd be remiss if I didn't add the vampire attacks. So we have, of course, it's impossible to deny that something is going to happen. Maybe you want to live in the fantasy world where vampire attacks don't happen, but we are vulnerable to all of these things, except for the vampires. All of these things. We're more vulnerable now than ever before. The TSA just okayed knives on planes again. You can't bring baby formula or regular sized shampoo, but a knife is totally cool. Does that make sense to you? Our borders remain open. 10,000 people every day try to sneak through. Well, okay, that A, hurts the economy. B, more importantly, we know that Hamas is active in South America, trying to infiltrate the U.S. to try to commit a terrorist attack on our soil. Our energy grid remains vulnerable to attacks, or, the latest, we're supposedly going into the most active solar time in 100 years. That, in the 1800s and again in 1920, burned up all of the power lines. Cyber attacks are very real threats, but nobody even talks about those. You remember the electronic run on the bank that almost destroyed us in 24 hours? We have corrupt leaders who, I had an audience in just a little while ago. We did Tomorrow's Show today. It was college-age students. I asked them, how many of you believe the press? No one raised their hand. How many believe the politicians, GOP or Democrat? How many of you believe? Nobody raised their hand. How many kind of believe? Nobody raised their hand. And the people who are in Washington, not all of them, there's some really good people there. But you're telling me we don't have a few that could be compromised? We don't have any more Anthony Weiner and Weiner picks in there that could be compromised? We are extraordinarily vulnerable as a country and a people. Get hit with another terror attack, given that we're in an economy that is now borrowing more than anyone in the history of the world has ever borrowed. Ben Bernanke telling us $85 billion a month, $1 trillion every year. What? Help me out here. What's the problem? Financially, we're not just weaker than we were 10 years ago. America's problems are bigger in size and scope than any nation has ever faced in the history of the world. Now, the president and John Boehner both said, Republican and GOP, no immediate debt crisis in America. Well, I got to tell you, I'd like to vacation in the make-believe land that they're living in Washington, but I don't want to live there. The numbers don't lie. More than $16 trillion in debt. The Fed printing, pumping, digitizing another trillion every single year. It's actually 1.1 trillion. The government was spending $30.5 billion in the first 5 months of this year. Obamacare is set to add $6.2 trillion to America's long-term debt, according to a GAO report. And the GAO came out yesterday and said, by the way, you remember how we're going to reduce your premiums on insurance? GAO came out and said they're going to go up by 203%. And the tax increases that we had to have to get this under control, the ones that everybody felt, even though it was only supposed to be a tax on the rich, that's already gone. They've already spent all of that. For the entire year, it was gone within the first month. Despite the tax hikes, the government debt has increased $36 billion this year, more than it did last year in the same time period. We're weak, we're broke, and our citizens are underprepared. We have a society in ever-increasing numbers that doesn't even understand self-reliance or the basic mechanics of a civil society. If something breaks down and you can't call for help, what are you going to do? Cavemen will fare better than most Americans. And let me give you the case in point. Sandy, Hurricane Sandy. Oh, that's where we spent all of that new tax money. We spent it on Hurricane Sandy relief. 8.5 million people lost power across 21 states. New York Stock Exchange was shut down for 2 days. 3,000 flights were canceled. $25 billion in lost economic activity. $75 billion in damage. New York City rationed gas for 15 days. New Jersey, 11. And Long Island, 9 days. Were they prepared? Do you remember seeing people on television? Most Americans aren't prepared anywhere. Even people who should know, who say they're prepared, are not. And a lot of it happens because everybody is being told, oh, don't worry. Sandy was terrible. It killed 147 people, caused so much damage, but people were crying out for help, yelling at FEMA and the government, angry because the government told them, I love this one, go online to get help. I don't have any power, you dope. How am I going to plug in my computer or recharge my cell phone? What were the citizens thinking? Some people didn't even have a home. You should learn this lesson. You cannot rely on FEMA. You cannot rely on government. You shouldn't rely on them. We can't allow ourselves to be at the mercy of what people deem is best for the collective in an emergency. Be self-reliant so you can be a blessing to others. The only one you should count on is you. This is American common sense. But now we've been trained to ignore common sense and roll the dice and just hope for the best, because they'll be here. Even the Boy Scouts are being vilified as crazy on several fronts now. And what do they teach? The biggest thing they teach is be prepared. When did that become crazy? Theory, 1979, when the first responder training program was adopted and FEMA enacted under Jimmy Carter. That's when you stopped being the first responder and we began calling for first responders. We've talked about preparedness on this program for years. About 2 years ago, I had a list together of a whole bunch of things that you could do to prepare. Have you looked at that list lately? How much of it have you checked off? Have you made your own list? We're lucky to have food insurance here tonight, and there are sponsors. The people who are here, there's a big preparedness convention here in Dallas. Food insurance is here, and they've put together a 50-item checklist. Have you read that? I've been telling you about it for a while. You should. Or you can trust Ben Bernanke, President Obama, wonderful GOP, and cross your fingers. My faith teaches preparedness. If anybody knows a Mormon, you know, I mean, this is the thing people always say, well, I always know where I'm going. I'm going to the Mormon's house. No, you're not. No, you're not. I got news for you. I think, are there any Mormons here? Any Mormons here? A couple? Yeah. Let me tell you something. I had news for you. The church is going to say, come on, everybody. No, some of these people didn't prepare, so take your food and let's pool it together and let's help each other out. We're not going to have any food either. Be prepared yourself. I will tell you that I am Pat, who I always think is really, really prepared. He was at my house about a year ago and he said, Glenn, I think you're the most prepared Mormon I've ever seen. And I told him, you should be afraid, very afraid, because I am not prepared. I have some of the stuff, but I really haven't done all of the work to really be prepared, and I'm way beyond what the typical person would do. I don't even, I have to tell you, I don't, when you get down to it, despite the extra steps, I'm not ready for what's coming. I could be called a fearmonger, and so could you if you prepare. Who cares? Whether it's a lack of our sanity, our civil strife, a flood, a tornado, history shows us those things are going to happen. Our economy is so fragile that it will eventually break down, at least for a while. Can you last 2 weeks? Will you be ready for it? Tonight, this network, The Blaze, does a show that's very different than the other networks, not driven by ratings. Believe me, this isn't a show for sweeps weeks. Hey, let's talk about food storage. But we do believe that it is important, and we're not going to treat you like a moron. Someone needs to tell the American people the truth and then help them lead. Everything you need to prepare: food, cash, energy, the little round Band-Aids that you could stick on the side of your neck in case you get attacked by a vampire. Could happen. Next.